considering the issue with the erosion and sediment migration, to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions when the site isn't even in compliance before issuance of.
We can address that immediately, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if I can get the contractor out there tomorrow, but I'm sure I can get him out there by Friday to put some new erosion across the front and put a silt sack in those 2 catch basins immediately in front of the site. We can take care of that immediately.
And what kind of erosion are we on this project? I don't have the plan open immediately in front of me. I mean, it looks like this is just straw wattles that they've placed down, Megan. Are they proposing silt socks?
So to date, there are no erosion controls shown on the plan. It's something that I brought up in my past report because as of now, there is one small length of straw wattle near the catch basin, but it was never staked in and has since been flattened either by traffic on the road or at the site. So yeah. I originally commented before, but there are no proposed erosion controls on the plan itself.
Yeah.
We don't have anything proposed because there's no resource area to protect that we would typically, protect with a siltation protection. They did, as Megan said, they put the wattles up, across the front in that area of the catch basin just to try to protect that one catch basin on our side. As I said, we can enhance that this week and put in the silt sacks within those catch basins to take care of it, but we don't have anything proposed on the plan, although we're certainly fine with Megan's comments and her suggestions.
Megan, do you know, are these infiltrating catch basins or did they just have a discharge point?
Scott could probably confirm it, but I believe they are directly discharging into the culvert. Brook culvert's about 20 feet away.
Right.
Okay, so this is a nexus to a resource area. Is correct?
Well, it's a subsurface system. There's 2 catch basins directly in front of the site, one on either side of the street. It's a typical drainage system. Both catch basins tie into a drain manhole via an 18-inch pipe.
Yeah.
That manhole then runs westerly down Leach Ave to another manhole, and that manhole discharges directly to the 8-foot culvert, the underground culvert.
And regardless of, I mean, as this isn't in compliance with the MS4 requirements for any site work on any site, having erosion controls and measures to prevent siltation running into the roadway.
I would guess I would say you're right, and as I said, I'll have him go out there tomorrow or Friday, but before the end of the week to address that situation, as Megan suggested. I'll have him do it immediately.
So, can I ask a question? It
Please.
sounded like Megan was saying that there was there was a necessary interaction where we needed to remove the silt that had already gone into the drain. What is the timeline going to look like on doing something like that? Because obviously you need to put down the socks first, prevent further silt from getting in there. But what are we looking at for removal? How much got in there? Because Megan's been to the site. I'm sure many of us have not.
The city, I think, cleaned the catch basins when they were out there last Friday. So whatever silt was in there, either from our site or just over the years, has been taken care of by the city just 5 days ago.
Yes, and my recommendation was not necessarily that the catch basin itself needs to be cleaned again, because the city did just go out there. But again, the disturbed soils and the fill are going past the edge of pavement into the right of way. And basically the catch basin is right at the edge of pavement. So if the fill encroaches onto the pavement at all, it's close to encompassing the catch basin, which is why I'm recommending that, that fill slope be pulled back at least to the edge of pavement so that a silt sock or something can be put up that keeps runoff from getting into the catch basin. Because as it is now, there's disturbed soils, moving into the roadway and kind of close to encircling the catch basin, because the catch basin is very close to the edge of pavement.
Right.
So I'll come back around. I think we understand the issue, and so Scott, you understand what Megan is
Yes.
asking for and saying. Again, I'm still not inclined to issue an order of conditions until this site is brought into compliance.
Stephanie, may I?
Yes, please.
So I have a few questions. So I'd like to know more about the comments that Joy Dupereau has made about the LOMA from FEMA. I want to know if this is standard and have LOMAs been accepted by the city in the past without these base flood elevations?
It does seem that for Zone A flood zone properties, we have seen several that have been approved by LOMA without a base flood elevation. There haven't been, prior to this one, I can't think of any that have come before me in the commission while I've been here. So I can't say of a precedent of how the commission has dealt with them. It is just a concern, at least to me, when I first looked at it, it was a concern of, how FEMA could grant a property as being above the base flood elevation without a base flood elevation. And
Exactly.
it was one of the concerns that Joy Dupereau mentioned. And so I did share with her all of the information I had, including Scott's application for the LOMA. And so she acknowledged that it could be that the observations and the situation at the site would not be reflected in the LOMA, which is why she encouraged that, the applicant still work with the city to mitigate the impacts of this project, because the city knows it's a flooding issue regardless of how it's reflected in the LOMA.
If I could, Madam Chair, we're saying it doesn't have a base flood elevation. There's a LOMA that was issued on another piece of property on Keith Ave that's 400 feet away, and that was the basis for our request for the LOMA. The property that's 400 feet away issued and came up with a base flood elevation of 81.8, which is
And what's the lowest point on your site?
85 on our lot. So we're 3.2 feet above the base flood elevation. Based on that, that's the data that FEMA used in granting the LOMA. It's 400 feet away. There's not that great of a change in elevation. It would make sense if the flood elevation is 81.8, it's not going to be 85 on our site. So that's the basis. So there is a base flood elevation in the area. It's not directly on our site, but it's certainly enough that FEMA was comfortable with it. And as far as the state flood manager asking that we help mitigate it, well, we're doing that by providing the compensatory storage. So I think
Stephanie, I have a few other questions as well when you're ready.
Yep,
So-
go right ahead, Joanne.
And so off the back of, so it sounds like Ms. Dupereau was saying that as long as the issues of flooding and stormwater are addressed during construction and design, then it doesn't seem to be a concern to her. So I'm now thinking about the comment that the city engineer said, and I'm wondering why the exception was made for not having a stamp on this, and instead he says that it's something that he wants on a future plan.
it's
So
just
I'm assuming
I-
that's like,
It's a
future.
structural
Let me
Right.
finish. Let me finish. Hold
Scott,
on, let me
if you
finish.
could wait a minute, please.
And again, if that's something that the commission it has made exceptions on in the past as well before I joined.
So, Scott, let me just say a couple of things first. First, I'm a little concerned with Ms. Duperreau's comments because it looks like she's questioning why her own agency, I mean, she's from a different section of the agency, but my understanding is that the National Flood Insurance Program is run through FEMA. And she's basically questioning, and we questioned this, and Joanne's questioning it again, the LOMA information, but she's punting to the city and to the commission to kind of take responsibility for this. That doesn't mean we shouldn't. And I agree with you, Joanne. I find it interesting that this is a comment worth making from the city engineer, but there doesn't seem to be, and maybe Megan, you can elaborate. I don't know if she commented on why this time might be acceptable, whereas any time in the future, because that's how this reads, it wouldn't be acceptable. And so, Scott, if Megan could just answer that first, and then.
Yeah, I can't speak to the city engineer's rationale. I can only confirm that he informed Scott and I via email that he was going to approve this current design. And then with that caveat or that follow-up sentence that I read, again, I can't speak to his reasoning. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that the foundation's already in the ground and exacerbating the situations that I think he might want to see the project moved along and get that site graded properly and try to fix the worst situation that's been created because of it. Again, that's just would be my interpretation, but I don't have any other correspondence with him to confirm that.
Yep. And do you, just before I move back to Scott, do you, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but so you can simply say you have no further comment, but do you have any other comments on Ms. Duperreau's comments?
All I can say is at the conclusion of our conversation, basically after I had emailed her all the documentation and the plans we've received, she said at this time her office was going to stand down unless the city needed or requested further assistance from them. She said it looked like the city currently was working with the applicant to mitigate the impacts. And so that was the way she left it. And so I said at the time we were having this meeting tonight, and so again, with the information that I provided, she said that, you know, her office was going to stand down unless the city believed that we needed their help.
Okay. Scott, I'm going to let you speak, but then I'm going to loop back around to Joanne after you finish, just to check in and see if she feels her questions and comments were addressed. So go ahead.
The city engineer's comment is strictly on the structural part of the foundation. It has nothing to do with flood control. In our conversation with him after our last meeting, we spoke about, and he said if we put in a reinforced concrete slab on the floor, the regular basement floor, if we reinforced it with concrete, that would satisfy his concerns. So that is what we did. He is simply saying next time he would like to have a structural engineer stamp it to say that that's okay. That's a building permit issue by the building department. It has nothing to do with the flood conditions or anything else. He's saying.
So Scott, I'm going to ask you to kind of you just made a statement that might answer the question I have. So this comment is not related in any way whatsoever to the potential flooding issues.
Exactly. All he's referring to is the structural part. He says he wants a structural engineer to review the basement slab. That's all he was talking about. He has no comment on the flood issue.
But it does say to withstand the said pressure. What is the said pressure? Is that not the pressure of potential stormwater?
The concern was, that came up last time at our meeting and with his original review, was where we have the compensatory storage at elevation 83 as a low spot, and the basement floor is at elevation 82. If the water got into the basement, would it cause any issues structurally with the basement?
So it sounds like, yes, it is related to potential flooding.
So that was the solution we came up with him. If we did that, then there would be no concern with the compensatory storage being a little bit above the basement floor.
Joanne?
So you kind of, yeah, so you hit, I mean, that's where I was going with this. I think if I was king, I don't know if I would have put a house on this property, given the issues that it has. I'm not king, and obviously my role on a conservation commission is very limited, and I know what my powers are and aren't. But that was exactly my concern. I was wondering if this comment, because it's also out of context, I was wondering if what the city engineer was suggesting is that having an official stamp on this would certify that the plan that is in place would actually be able to withstand the stormwater pressures and the flooding issues that are in the area. I mean, a house with a foundation that doesn't, you know, that's not suitable to its wet conditions would kind of be a big concern of mine. But it sounds like the city engineer still accepts the plan as it stands. And Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just the technicality of it not having the stamp, right?
Yes, so usually, you know, the plans that we approve are only stamped by the civil engineer and the surveyor. So it's not standard that we have them stamped by any other type of engineer. I think just because of the particulars of a case like this, which doesn't come around too often, fortunately, the idea of, you know, building a basement in an area that floods, I think that's probably why he made that additional comment. But I mean, Scott is correct that his primary concerns with the design were that the residents of this future two-family home are going to have water issues themselves in their basement. So I think his comments were about trying to protect the homeowners of this new, or the residents of this new property as well. So it seems that he is approving it based on that, and that usually a structural engineer stamp is not required.
Okay. That's all I've got, Stephanie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if I may,
Yep.
I'd like to ask probably Megan here. So I have concerns about the permit that was, or the whatever the word is, please forgive me, for what FEMA made this zone. Because I feel like, especially in this particular area, 400 feet, that's 6 to 8 house lots. That's an enormous amount of space in order to make a judgment call for what will flood and what won't. And based on just where I live, because I'm also on a wetland, the difference between my house and 2 neighbors down is less than feet. And that's the difference between them being underwater and being underwater. So I am genuinely concerned that 400 feet was the space between what measured and what was just given permission. So it's not really a question, but I want to kind of field that with Megan and see what her comments and concerns might be on that.
Yes, so again, it does appear that FEMA does grant LOMAs in this case. You know, they'll request additional information, and someone will forward a previous LOMA saying this is nearby and they had a base flood elevation and we're higher than that. So it does seem that FEMA does grant those in some cases. Again, I had the same concern seeing it, same as the city engineer and the state floodplain manager. So it's a case where this does seem this is how FEMA does it, but you know, I think some of us would, you know, have those concerns about it.
I guess that's
Okay.
as far as
So-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what Megan said earlier, after she sent the information and the plans and everything to Ms. Dupereau, that she, meaning Ms. Dupereau, was satisfied that the measures that are being proposed, and Megan, correct me if I have this wrong, the measures that are being proposed for compensatory storage and design are sufficient to
Yes, so I
address
can
her
say that I
concerns.
did provide her with this latest plan, and I said that, we are working with the applicant to provide mitigation. At the time, I told her we were still awaiting approval from the city engineer. And so again, that was at that point when she said that her office would step down because it seemed that the city was working with the applicant to provide that mitigation again. So she seemed comfortable with how the city was handling it. And so again, my follow-up then at this point, my concern is the sedimentation issue. So I wanted to bring that again into the forefront, that, that needs to be prioritized as well.
Megan, because I think he hasn't said it, but I think what Mr. Faria is trying to say is that he'd like the commission to close the hearing. Are you comfortable with doing that ahead of this sedimentation being addressed and taken care of? I'm still not, so I will go on record. I'm not putting this, like trying to shift this onto your shoulders, but.
If we could,
No,
Madam-
I would just want it to be done as soon as possible. And again, that's, to issue the order of conditions, the only condition I'd be able to recommend is, for example, that the cleanup be performed before the issuance of a building permit so that they can't carry on with the work, before they do it. So, I mean, that could be conditioned in there, but again, my priority was that they should have done it back in March, the first time we brought it up. So yes, I think it could be conditioned. We could hold the building permit, but that's sort of the commission's discretion if they want to condition it or they want this outstanding issue to be addressed ahead of time.
Madam Chair, if I could, I'm guaranteeing you, he will take care of it by Friday. If he doesn't, I will do it myself. I'll run to Ramco, buy the silt sock, put it down, stake it in place, put down straw mats, and put a silt sack on those 2 catch basins. I'll do it myself before I leave the office on Friday. It'll be done in 2 days' time.
Scott, I know you, but I can't base my decision on that. So again, at this point, I think we've heard as much testimony as we need to without just repeating ourselves, including, everything that you've told us. So what would you like to do?
I would like to close the hearing.
Okay, do I have a motion to close the hearing?
It's Joanne. I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of closing? Stephanie Danielson, aye?
Joanne, aye.
Bonnie Sparks, aye.
Do I have any other motions?
That prior motion contained all of Megan's provisions and.
Yes. Yes, so you can make a basic motion that would include, that references all the conditions that are detailed in Megan's plan.
I'm going to ask Joanne if she can do that because she's better at this than I am.
So I'm not prepared to vote for a notice of intent without the issues being addressed. I can only go on past history of what's happened at this site, and it's not been to the rules. So I want to see those addressed.
So I have no motion. Scott,
Yes.
I think there are a couple of options open to you. You could press and, someone could make a motion. And it sounds like any motion to issue an order of conditions would fail. And any motion to not issue an order of conditions would pass. At that point, you and your client get together and do whatever needed to be done to do the cleanup, and then come back and demonstrate that to the commission. And you could ask that the commission reopen the hearing, and the commission could reconsider. Your other option would be to rescind your motion to close the hearing and ask to reopen the hearing and continue.
I think I have no choice but to take that option.
Okay, so would you restate that for us? So,
I'd like to withdraw my request to close the public hearing.
okay. Do I have a motion to accept the rescind of the closing of the hearing and reopen the hearing?
I'll make a motion to reopen the hearing and rescind the request to close the previous one.
A second?
I second Bonnie Sparks.
All in favor? Danielson, aye?
Zygmunt, aye.
Sparks, aye.
And do I have a motion to continue this hearing to August 19th, which is the next meeting of the Conservation Commission?
Joanne
Motion.
here. I'll make a motion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bonnie.
No, you go.
It's Joanne here. I make a motion to continue this hearing until the next meeting on August, what was the date again?
19th.
To August 19th, please.
Do I have a second?
Bonnie Sparks, I second.
All in favor? Danielson, aye?
Zygmunt, aye.
Bonnie Sparks, aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.
You too. All right. The next order of business is an enforcement order for 43 Nancy Lane.
Yep, this is Sandra, the property owner.
Okay. Megan, I keep losing my connection to the, let's see, that's not it. Megan, do you want to give us an update?
Yes, so I can. So basically, I was called out to the site originally on May 17th, following a report of earth moving activities at the end of Nancy Lane. So I did go out there with a member of the engineering division, and we confirmed that it looks like some dirt and rocks had been pushed back from the end of Nancy Lane in the city's right-of-way. At the time, it didn't look like the work was encroaching on any buffer zones. So I issued just a verbal reminder of the wetland resource areas and of conservation jurisdiction over any work in the buffer zone, and advised that the owners consult with the professional land surveyor that last prepared their plan. If they were planning to do any yard improvement work, that they consult with that surveyor to draw up the plan and make sure they have commission approval. So I left it at that until July 6th. We received another report that there was additional work going on that prior Friday. So I did that Monday morning, go out and take a look, and it did look like more activity had been going on in the actual yard of 43 Nancy Lane. So previously there had been a couple of small fill piles in the yard back in May. And when I went out there in July, the fill piles were gone, and it looked like earth and debris had been pushed around the edge of the yard. I also noted that at the edge of the slope of disturbance, it looked like there was some construction debris. So like bricks and cement that might have been pushed maybe from the right of way or from the yard off into the wooded area. So given that this was a return visit, that's why I recommended issuing the enforcement order, just to outline the mitigation measures to make sure that if there is a yard improvement project going on, that it follows the proper protocols of being reviewed by the commission.
Okay. Ms. DeAndre, do you have anything to add?
I just want to get some clarification on what needs to be done. You see on here, it says in the right of way to remediate the vegetation. So we're planning on just putting like grass there, grass seed, so it can grow. And we did realize that part of the field that was delivered to us did have concrete, so we'll have that removed.
Okay.
Yes, so I believe so the required mitigation measures that I outlined in the enforcement order were that, yes, any unclean fill, so fill that contains bricks or wood or concrete, should be removed so that only clean fill is being used on the site. And
Mhm.
again, a filling project, it looks like, again, as you are aware, there are wetlands around your property, and so that will require filing a proper permit application with the commission, which is why one of the required measures is consulting with a land surveyor and a wetland scientist to draw up the plan to make sure the work is going on within your property boundaries, and that the application to the commission shows where this proposed filling is going on. So it does look like if it's a lawn expansion type project, then that needs to be shown on a plan of where the original yard was and how far it's been expanded to and you'd like to expand it to. And so that's why you'll need to consult the land surveyor and the environmental scientist, because they're the ones that flag the wetlands and draw up the plan to make sure that you're working within your property boundaries, and then figuring out how close you actually are coming to the wetlands. Because again, the city does maintain a 25-foot no touch even with a permit. So we want to make sure that that permit is requesting something within 100 up to 25 feet where that new fill is going.
So the wetlands, when you look at the GIS mapping that that's online for my property, the wetlands is actually on the opposite side of that area.
Yes, Ms. DeAndre, the GIS wetland layer is not a definitive wetland line.
So why is it published online?
To give people an idea and sense of where wetlands may be. But you need people, if they have a question about whether there are wetlands or they're on their property, or they're doing work that may be within the boundary of a wetland resource area, you need to contact the city or hire, as Megan is saying here, a wetland scientist to go out and delineate the wetland area. And when I say contact the city doesn't go out and delineate the wetlands, but Megan can give you a good idea of whether there might be wetlands on your property or not. And I'm not directing that at you. We know you're affected by wetlands, but anyone who may be listening.
You know, she's on the call.
Is that it?
So did someone want to say something? Okay, so you understand what the next steps are?
Yep, hire a land surveyor to say exactly what I've been saying. The previous owner did have a land surveyed because he previously wanted to build a house back there. So I have all that paperwork. So I know we're within more than 100 feet away from the wetland. So we'll just spend our money and go ahead and hire a land surveyor to please our neighbor.
Okay, and it's a wetland scientist and the surveyor. The wetland scientist goes out and identifies where the wetlands are. They hang flags that indicate where the limit of the wetland area is. And then the land surveyor comes in and the term is picks up the flags, but he locates them by survey so that they can be accurately depicted on a paper plan.
And then submit it to you guys, even though it's done, it's just to put down grass so that it doesn't look like dirt.
Megan, is this, there's fill material that's been placed, correct?
From what I can tell, yes, it looks like there have been earth moving activities. And again, looks like either some fill with debris has been brought in or the debris was moved from one area of the site to the other, but it does appear that, you know, either more fill is brought in, and again, in May, there were a couple of small fill piles in the yard that had not been spread out, which is why I advised that they not be spread out until the surveyor and the environmental scientists were consulted so that the commission could be updated. So again, I don't know if those exact fill piles were spread out in the yard or this is other earth being moved around, but.
No, it was that. When you came out, you spoke to me and you told me about the land surveyor.
Yes, and I did note that at the time you had some dirt piled up in the yard, and you might have mentioned that you were looking to spread it out, which was why I brought up consulting the surveyor first to figure out what it is you were planning to do. So again, I don't know if that was the fill that's since been spread out or this is other material that's been brought in, but just the fact that it looks like the area has been leveled out a bit more and there is that debris that's been pushed a bit farther into the wooded area, that needs to be permitted, even if it's retroactive.
Okay, we'll just hire the land surveyor and the wetland scientist.
And when you're ready to submit the permit, which would be the permit for the work that was done, so that it can be confirmed by the commission to be allowable, and then it also documents that work so that it kind of creates a history that the work was done and was permitted. Then we know
How do I
that
file a permit with the Conservation Commission? Is it
you can
available?
contact the office, you can contact Pam or Megan, and they can walk you through the process.
And also, if you are working with a land surveyor and an environmental scientist, they're also going to be familiar with that process. So you can either work with them to file the permit application, or you could have them do it if you wanted.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, thank you for coming in, Ms. DeAndrade. The next item on the agenda is an enforcement order update for 34 Herman Street. And I know, is that Ms. Cordero? You're here for that
Yes,
one?
I'm
Okay.
here. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. So
Okay.
Megan, do you want to provide an update on?
Yes, so this is in regards to the enforcement order for 34 Herman Street that was issued and ratified at a previous meeting. I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before, about the earth moving activities going on in the rear yard of 34 Herman Street. that have encroached into the city-owned parcel that abuts 34 Horman Street to the back. And as you may be familiar, the intermittent stream associated with Herman Street and Belgravia Ave runs through that same city-owned parcel. So these earth-moving activities have come about within 25 feet of that intermittent stream. And so it's a similar case of, it appears, earth-moving activities, possibly leveling the backyard, are ongoing. So we issued that enforcement order with mitigation recommendations. And I have since received follow-up that there is still work going on the site, which is why I wanted to provide this update and provide a follow-up letter inviting the property owner to come discuss the order and to discuss the ongoing work that's been reported is still happening.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments, Ms. Kadira?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to talk. Well,
No.
I don't know. This whole thing came from the Board of Health that came out because I had stuff in my yard. It had nothing to do with what was behind the house. The Eddie Williams from the fire department, who I don't get along with, I've been in this house 23 years. This is nothing new, 23 years. I don't go beyond my property. If that's the city-owned property, when their city-owned tree fell on my fence, they should have replaced my fence. And I'm not the one that puts stuff behind on that city property. I have a neighbor that she goes over and they throw their stuff over there and then they say, oh, it's from Herman Street. No, it's not. Then they said I was digging holes and burying stuff. You can come and dig my whole backyard up and see if there's anything buried under there. I'm definitely not on no wetland property. And as a matter of fact, another tree fell in my head. So if it's city-owned property, I would appreciate the city to come remove their tree.
If a tree is falling on your property from city-owned property, that's something that would probably need to be addressed with the DPW. It's not under the purview of the
Well,
Conservation
if you're
Commission.
saying it's the concept.
So at this point, are you going to be working with us to resolve this issue? I guess Ms. Kadiro left the room.
Let's see.
Are you still there, Ms.
I'm sorry,
Kadiro?
an incoming call came, so I lost you.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, are you there?
Incoming call keeps coming in. They keep cutting you off.
Okay.
So that's why I can't understand what this whole thing's about. Like I said, it's not like I just bought this house and we're new to this area and we don't know what's going on back there. I've been here 23 years and never had a problem until this guy keeps coming to my house for no reason and harassing me. And that's a fact.
So Ms. Kadiro, can you confirm who has been doing work behind your house?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so you have been moving dirt.
Yep, absolutely. I took the trees and that fence that fell on my property from your property and I took it off. Yes, I did.
But what Megan observed were earth-moving activities.
I don't think Megan observed
In the rear.
anything because I don't think Megan's ever been here.
I have site photos taken.
You know what?
From,
Those are the photos. You've never personally been to my property.
No, I accessed the activity via the city-owned parcel because the original complaint was that the earth-moving activities were encroaching on the city parcel. So I came in through the city parcel and took photos of the
Okay.
earth-moving activities.
Okay, so I've never spoke to you. You've never spoke to me. You never tried to find out what was going on. You never tried to see about your trees that fell and broke my pool and broke my fence and broke my stuff in my yard that I had to replace. So yes, I had to get that stuff out of here. And yes, I just put up a new pool from the tree that your conservation land broke.
Okay.
Stephanie, may I?
And just to note, Ms. Kadira, we did send a prior letter for activities. I believe this was back in January. We did send a letter prior to all this to try to clarify about any debris.
I never
And
got a letter.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cordero, would you please let Megan finish?
I never got a letter from the conservationists. I got a letter from the Board of Health. Never. I got one 2 weeks ago from the conservationists. That's it. Because before this, I never even knew that that was conservation land. Because 20 years ago, the city, we could have bought that land behind us.
Okay, Ms. Cordero, I'm going to ask that you lower your voice. There's really no need to yell. And you allow people to finish speaking just as we allowed you to finish speaking.
Okay.
Okay, yes, so I know after we issued that first letter, we did receive a call from someone who lives at 34 Herman Street. He said that Mr. Cordero was out of the country at the time. So at that time, I did encourage him or someone else at the house to attend the meeting that they had been invited to. We didn't receive a follow-up after that. So again, I'm not sure who exactly called on behalf of the owners in response to that last letter. He just said that he was a relative of Mr. Cordero. So prior to this enforcement order, the previous letter, we believe that we had spoken to someone at the property, but we did not receive follow-up after speaking to that person.
And so you don't know who that was? Do you know when that was?
That would have been back when the letter was issued. I can look that up right now. I believe it was January.
Yes, I think it was January.
Well,
January 3rd, it's dated.
Thank you,
January,
Joanne.
actually, we were both not in the country. So I don't know who would have got that letter. I don't know who would have even called you guys back.
Yes,
Okay.
presumably, yes, it was someone who had access to the property. He said he was a relative, but that's all I know.
Listen,
So,
and it-
Ms. Cordero,
yeah,
this is what I'm going to suggest. I am going to suggest that Megan get in touch with, how about you get in touch with Megan? You give her a call and set up time where she can go out and meet you on your property, and she can show you what she observed and what the violation is. And then we can have a discussion.
okay, yeah,
About what
because
needs
like
to
I
be
said, in January, I mean, none of this was even taking place in January. It was a couple of weeks ago maybe 3 weeks ago now, when the Board of Health, everybody's been out here, okay? So then Eddie Williams from the fire department called me on the phone, and he was like, well, I think you're going a little bit past your land. I was like, yeah, I don't think so, because that's where the fence was originally. And he said, well, I'm going to contact the conservation land. I told him to contact whoever he wants. And that's the first time I ever heard about anything from the conservationists. It was 3 weeks ago when Eddie Williams told me that he was calling you guys, and a week later, I got a letter from you.
Okay, again, I don't think it's serving any of us to continue to debate what happened in the past. We know where we are at this point, and you have disputed moving earth into an area that's jurisdictional by the Conservation Commission. Megan knows what she observed and has pictures of that. And again, my suggestion is let's have the two of you meet together on your property, and Megan can show you what she observed and what mitigation measures are expected.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay? Do you have a phone number you can give Megan as well?
Yes.
Pam, can she chat that so that is there a way for her to do a chat?
I don't know how to even use it.
I
I
will,
can
if-
write it down.
I can give you the number. It's
I
not.
can just write it down.
Yeah.
okay,
774
Mm-hmm.
360
Okay.
1272.
Okay.
all right, thank you for coming in, and we're looking forward to having the two of you connect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Megan, is there anything else that was not anticipated and needs our attention?
Yes, so one item that was added after the issuance of this agenda was just a correspondence I've sent out to the owner at 536 North Quincy Street. We received a report from a butters, I believe it's Norman Road, that there is a wooded area behind the existing house and bike shop, that they had been bringing in truckloads of fill and there was debris piled up back there, and that there were wetlands in the wooded area. So the piles in the backyard were affecting the water in the wetlands. So I did go out there, and it does appear that it's 536 North Quincy is one parcel that has both a single family residence and a bike shop on it. And it did look like in the backyard, what I first noticed was several large piles of logs and cut up tree trunks. And so from reviewing the Mass GIS layer, it also does appear that there are wetlands in the wooded area behind that backyard. So I issued an initial letter to contact the owner of either the bike shop or the house and receive that initial confirmation of whether, they're doing work or they're receiving fill. So I did provide the upcoming agenda for tonight and said that the agenda for August 19th was upcoming, to invite them to attend one of those meetings before we, as is customary, do the follow-up to the first letter about debris.
Okay. And we have not heard, have you heard anything?
I have not received any calls or emails in
Mhm.
regards to this.
Okay.
Can I just ask why there's two letters here? They look the same. Is there something different?
Yes, so because there is both a house and a bike shop on the same parcel, I sent one addressed to the property owner and one addressed to the bike shop itself. That way, hopefully, again, the idea is to get it to someone so that they might reach out. So that's why I sent two, just in case I don't know, who receives the mail.
Thank you for.
Okay, so I'm just curious, so clearly no one came to this meeting. They haven't reached out. You do note that there are the future meetings being posted on, but it doesn't state to come to this meeting or the August meeting.
Right,
So,
the concern of because again, this happened within the past couple days.
yes,
Concern was requiring them to come to this meeting might not be feasible.
right, right.
But I
So,
wanted to invite them to come if they could.
yeah, so my suggestion would be, could you do a follow-up letter that just states, we understand you did not attend the July 15th meeting, and it may have been short notice. Therefore, we would expect to see you at the August meeting, the August 19th meeting. If for any reason you cannot attend that, please contact.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So that seems it. Do I have a,
I think we didn't ratify the Nancy Lane enforcement order, so does the commission want to ratify that order?
do I have a motion to ratify the Nancy Lane enforcement order?
I'm Joanne here. I'll make a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 43 Nancy Ave, did you say?
Lane, yes.
Lane, Nancy Lane, 43 Nancy Lane.
Do I have a second?
Bonnie Sparks, second.
Okay, all in favor? Danielson, aye?
Zigmund, aye.
Bonnie Sparks, aye.
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Joanne here. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Bonnie Sparks, second.
All in favor? Danielson, aye?
Joanne, aye.
Bonnie Sparks, aye.
Okay, motion is adjourned, meeting's adjourned.